Here we have a Sabvoton SVMC 72150 controller with wiring harness already connected to it. So when connecting harness, you need to take care that you connect battery positive, battery negative, power negative, and the three-phase wires correctly. So always follow the color lines here on the controller and connect appropriately. So yellow is yellow phase wire. Controller wiring harness has three-phase wires. This is a programming connector for the USB, for the PC computer programming of the controller. Here you have a connection for the battery. You connect P negative to the output of the BMS from the battery, and on this you have a charging port connection, and on this one the positive charging port connection. On the other end of the signal wiring harness, you'll have a Cycle Analyst connector. Then you will have a key switch connector for the ignition. You will have also a temperature connector and the regen connector. You will also notice the exit signal wires for the shunt. You have to connect them with the wiring signal wires with shunt and fuse. So you will also notice that on the label of the connector, P negative, there is a 3-digit number. This means that the shunt has a resistance 0.442 milliohms. So you will have to enter this value into a Cycle Analyst software when you are doing programming, so you have the correct current readings on the Cycle Analyst. With the controller, you will also receive the programming USB cable. If you want to use our wiring harness, you will receive the male XT150 connectors, so we'll have to solder them on. You will also receive the pair of 6-pin JST connectors, so you can change them if you want, or you use the ones that are usually supplied with the motors. On the controller is corresponding other half of the connector, so you can directly plug it in. So we plug it in now and use this end to connect with the Hall sensors on the motor. Hall sensor is now connected. We'll leave this second set of Halls for now. Now you'll have to connect the three-phase wires with the wiring harness you received from us. So now the phase wires are properly connected, so the colors must match. Depending on the motor or your preferences, you can also have the kickstand switch, so when the bike is parked, the switch is engaged and the controller gets a signal, so the motor does not turn. So this is a safety feature. You can use it if you want. If you want to do it, you have to connect the connector for the brake on the wiring harness by yourself. Okay, let's proceed now with the connecting the shunt connector. Okay, done. You will also need to connect the USB programming cable. We'll connect charging positive. Okay, the charging connectors are now plugged in. So what you now need to do is just plug in the battery. So now we connected the P negative to the BMS P negative. What we now have to do is connect the battery positive. So if we just connect it now, you'll get a spark because the capacitors on the inside the controller are empty, so you basically make a you will make a short circuit if you connect directly. So we advise to use a resistor connectors, special connectors, or you discharge, turn off the battery and then connect. So now it's connected. The battery will be turned on again. Okay, so now the system doesn't have the display controls, so we'll proceed with the Cycle Analyst connection in the next step. This is a Cycle Analyst display that you receive from us. So if you order the kit, you will receive also a regen cable extension, and also it will be sealed with a 20mm rubber seal, so you can directly install it on to one of our frames. So we'll now connect all together with the wiring harness. First the 6-pin connector, then temperature connector, then 3-pin regen connector, then we'll connect the throttle. We connect the throttle to the connector, exit connector from the display exit. It's marked here. It's a black connector, 3-pin connector. Okay, connected. Now we will connect the regen throttle, which we usually install on the left side of the handlebar, so we can operate it with the left thumb. We will install this connector to the extension wire, which goes through the rubber grommet here. Okay, connected. Okay, let's now install one of the very important items, which is the 3-pole ride mode selector switch. With this switch you can easily change between ride modes during the ride. So if you want to ride usually on the smaller square, it's the least power, and on the medium is medium power, and on the bigger square is a high power setup. So, and also we use this plus minus digital switch with which you can regulate the assistance level if you use pass or torque cell, or you can use this to fine-tune the throttle input level. So with it you can adjust the power output of the bike. So in case that you ride in the damp, wet conditions on the muddy terrain, you reduce a little bit the power so you don't get so much wheel spinning. So we suggest using both those connectors, those switches. They connect together like this, and then they go into another 3-pin connector from exiting from Cycle Analyst. It's a white connector. Okay, now all the important elements are connected, so everything what you see here you can order in Qulbix web shop. So switches, regen, throttles, twist throttles, and Cycle Analyst display, controller, motor for the mid-drive bike, batteries, and wiring harness. So now we have everything connected together. We'll turn on the system. The display turns on. Also here we have a green light. So at this moment looks okay. So the next step will be programming. The display that you order from Qulbix kit is already pre-programmed. So you have calibrated voltage, you have calibrated temperature, and also the menu is arranged like this. So you have a current on the left side and the speed on the right side. There are also some special features with the Qulbix firmware. You can see when the software loads, you can see the software is custom made for Qulbix. So okay, now we'll go and set up the controller and tune in the motor. Before you start programming, you'll have to install the software from the Sabvoton.net webpage, and also we will have to install the driver for the USB cable. So when you install it, plug in the USB, the bigger part into the laptop, the other part in the controller. Okay, start the software. The controller must be turned on, so you get a green light on the controller housing, and also the display must be on. Now we'll go into the software and connect. You go to communication and select the port. There is a lot of different ports available. Eventually have to test which one is correct one. So let's say number 4 is correct one. Okay, we see now that the green RX and green TX is blipping, so that means that controller is communicating with the software. Okay, we get a reading, voltage, speed, hull, status, throttle voltage, and so on. So everything is set up okay. Here you have the error list if in case of some errors. And now we go into set. And here we have different setup pages for basic, temperatures, functions, throttle, motor, and debug. Okay. So if you receive the controller from us, some of these items will be set up for the full value of the current and for the 72 volt system. So for example, if you want to change a parameter, you change the value and confirm it with OK. You can now check, okay, the new value is now on. So here you can see the values that are set up from our side. Here we select disable motor temperature sensor. That means that the controller will not be cutting power to the motor if the temperature goes too high, because we'll use the Cycle Analyst display to do that. So only if you use Cycle Analyst and measure the temperature there, only then you can disable this function. This upper part is for the temperature of the controller, so leave these values as they are. Okay, let's go to functions. E-bike throttle. Okay, we'll leave this one on because we use the variable regen. We will set up, for example, 70 amp of brake current. This value depends on your battery. So okay, let's say cruise, will disable it, because if we want cruise function, we'll set it up on the Cycle Analyst. Reverse speed, we just leave it. Flux weakening, okay, let's enable this. It's already enabled, and we'll leave the value on 100. This is the maximum. Perhaps it's better to use 50 amps in case that depends on which motor you are using. And also when you use the flux weakening current from high speed and then when you release the throttle, if this value is too high, then you experience quite strong braking. Okay, regenerative charge, we leave it disabled, and everything else like it is now. Okay, confirm. Let's go to throttle setup. Minimum voltage, we'll put it to 1.4. This also depends how you set up the throttle output on the Cycle Analyst, because the throttle signal will go through Cycle Analyst. So we'll control the throttle through the display. Maximum volt, we'll put it to 5. This time we'll put to 1 millisecond because we want fast response. Also this one to minimum value, which is 1 millisecond, because we really want fast response on the throttle. This value will be, we can play a little bit with this value. We can set it up quite high to 4 or 4.5 volts. We will leave to 4.3 volts. You can play with this value, so depends if you want the throttle response, you know, like when you start immediate power and then later lower power, or when you start less power and then when you reach higher speed, more torque, you know, and power. So you can play with this value and test. Motor, we'll have to change the direction, spinning direction. Okay, let's leave this motor pole number on 16. Hull angle test. For this motor, the hull angle value is around 245, but to be certain, to be sure, we will do the test. So we'll enter a small amount of current, so 10 amps for the test given current. We'll select hull angle test and put the enable. When I click this OK button, the motor will start to spin slowly. Now, the test is now in progress. You will also see in the back window, you'll see here the status which says in progress. So the test should take some, let's say 30 seconds and then finish. Okay, test now completed. It says test OK. So now we'll just go to motor and then back to debug, and this value now has changed. You notice that before it was 245, now it's 248. So I'll just confirm it with OK, put back to disable, put to normal run, OK, and put this value to 0 and confirm OK. Or are they now confirmed, and then store the parameter. Okay, and now you're done. Okay, so now everything is programmed. We'll now test also the Cycle Analyst. Okay, first try the ride mode selector switch. Okay, it works. Now try the power selector switch. It also works. You can see when the throttle is active, the sign active starts to blip, you know, because this is a safety feature. It tells you that the vehicle is now ready to be moved. So if we twist the throttle, you can see the motor is spinning. Regen also works, so we set it up everything like it should be. So if you want to change some parameters, you have to go into Cycle Analyst menu. You can change the speedometer function, so enter the circumference of the wheel, set up the battery values, throttle in, throttle out signal, speed limits, power limits. For example, on legal we have 4.5 kilowatts and 45 kilometers per hour, and then you have a lot of options, you know, so you can play with those. For details about how to set up the display, go to the Cycle Analyst webpage.